Today on Locked On Red Wings, with Lucas Raymond possibly returning on Thursday, who does Detroit place on waivers?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a host of, he's the host of Locked On Tigers and a writer for the Detroit News.
I wish I was the host of the Detroit News. That'd be pretty sweet.
That would be pretty radical.
Heck of a gig, yeah.
You know, I've been doing this for how long? And every so often, I mess up those intros, even though I say them every single day. But yeah, so on today's episode, guys, Derek Lalonde has said that in tomorrow's or today, by the time you guys are listening to this, in the matchup against the Washington Capitals in Washington, that Derek Lalonde hopes to get Jakub Vrana into the lineup. But then he also said that on Thursday that he hopes Lucas Raymond will return. And that obviously indicates that there will be some kind of roster decision need to be made. And that's going to be kind of like the heart of today's episode. And we'll finish off with a game preview like normal. But first, news and notes stuff, Scotty. Dylan Larkin, third star of the week by the NHL, and the first star of the week from the NHLPA. As in the past week, he had 8 points in 8 games, 4 goals, 4 assists. And we know that across longer games, he's well above that, but they only go by week. But he's been on a heater.
It's so funny to me that the NHLPA, whose like job is to get players paid more, is like he's the first star. Like that's so funny to me. Like looming contract extension, like trying to get this guy paid. All the like big media sources are like, yeah, he was really good. He's like the second or third star of the week, and the NHLPA is like he's the best player in the league. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, it's really funny too when you look at the other two guys who the NHL listed as their players of the week. Nathan McKinnon recently signed a huge extension. Tim Stützle recently signed a big extension. So you're right. Like it could have totally been like, this is our guy. Like he,
right.
he
the NHLPA is like, I don't know why he doesn't get 10 mil AAV. Honestly, like this is incredible. But I just thought that was super funny. And like, hey, they're doing their job. They're pushing the narrative ball. I appreciate some narrative ball.
You do love a good narrative, don't you?
I do.
So that was good for Dylan Larkin as we watch and observe him go on this absolute heater. We watch and observe Tyler Bertuzzi be absolutely fantastic. And hopefully on tomorrow's game, we watch and observe Jakub Vrana back in the lineup as Derek Lalonde during
that was a smooth transition, dude.
Thank you. During post-practice media availability said that they hope to get Jakub Vrana into the lineup. It's all about trying to figure out who sits. And one, I'm pumped to see some Jakub Vrana against his former team in Washington play some puck. But that question of who sits, that's a good one because that fourth line, my mind always goes to fourth line, right? Pius Suter, Philip Zadina, Oscar Sundqvist. But that fourth line has been clicking on so many cylinders lately. It does pose the question. It's like, this is a tough one. Like, who do you sit for someone who could be highly effective like Jakub Vrana?
Yeah, that's obviously the $1 million question at the moment. First off, I'm just, as you said at the beginning, I'm just really pumped to see him back, dude. Like what a journey he's had this season. What a roller coaster he's had. And I'm really happy for him. I'm very happy that he will be able to just be back on NHL ice. Hopefully, again, like they said that was the goal. So I guess we could be saying this. And then if they don't find a spot for him, then this is all kind of moot. But I'm really happy for him. I'm glad that he's been back, at least in the locker room and whatnot. And here's to hoping that he can get some consistent playing time back up at the NHL level again, because it's been a heck of a year, obviously, for him. But so that first and foremost, just really happy that to watch him play hockey again, man. Like we've seen when he's at his best, how dynamic of a scorer he can be. And what is this team we talk about all year? Like we've said, this team doesn't have a consistent, just like put the puck in the back of the net player. And at his best, Vrana can definitely be that down the stretch of a playoff push ? So like, it's really cool. It's good timing. And I hope it works out for him and the team, obviously. Like you said and like I said, the big question is obviously who to replace him with. I think there's a lot of different avenues you can go here. Do you lean forward? Like, is that the assumption? You lean forward, or I mean, what are we carrying 8 defensemen? I mean, that's an opportunity. There's probably a little bit of a look there as well. I think you can go a lot of different places with it.
Well, are you talking the waiver stuff? Or are you talking about in the game against Washington? Because I'm talking.
I was
I'm
talking
talking.
about roster when Raymond came back. I
Okay,
guess you're right. That I
I was
jumped the
talking
gun a little
about
bit
healthy
on.
scratching for tomorrow's game first and
Right, right,
foremost.
right. I jumped the gun on our discussion. I think, yeah, I think fourth line's probably the easiest way to go. But as you alluded to, the fourth line has been really
Producing.
good lately. Um, I don't know. I guess I would just the fan in me and like the excitement factor within me would not mind a line of like Sundqvist, Sedina. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say Vrana, Sundqvist, Sedina, but maybe you're kind of missing out on like a true center there. I don't know, man. That's really tough.
See, I would go one of two avenues here. I would go say F it, scratch Kubalik, who I know I said that like days ago, and Kubalik then scored 2 goals on that top line. But let's face it, that top line could be even more effective with a dynamic playmaker and goal scorer like Jakub Vrana is, and we saw that when he does play.
So you just
And
want to put him right back on the top line.
F it.
First game
If
back.
this is his 1 game tryout, F it. Just put him up there with Larkin and Bertuzzi. Throw him to the Wolves. He's been working on his 2-way game down in Grand Rapids. He went on a heater, got called up because he deserved it. Let's see what he can do back on that top line with Larkin and Bertuzzi, because we know in the past that it's succeeded. And I know he now has to adjust back to the NHL level. And I know it's completely unfair of me to ask Jakub Vrana to go back to playing top line minutes, but I know he's capable of it. My second one would be, Scotty, scratch Oscar Sundqvist and then put him on a line with Suter and Zadina, because we also know in limited playing time, Zadina and Vrana have good chemistry together, and Suter and Zadina have developed nice chemistry with one another on the fourth line. So if you want to ease him back into it, that would be a perfect place to put him. Now, and just imagine a fourth line with Zadina and Vrana on it. Like that, that is monster. And it's not a slight on Sundqvist's play either, but if you look at the score sheets, when the fourth line is producing, Sundqvist typically isn't getting on the score sheet. That doesn't mean he's not involved in the play, but of that fourth line, it seems like it's been mostly Pius Suter and Filip Zadina. I could be totally wrong. Maybe I'm not watching the game close enough, but it feels like it's
I
those
think it's
two.
kind of a role thing, though. Like I think
Yeah,
Sundqvist's
absolutely.
role is be a big, burly like body in front of the net and kind of wreak havoc for the bottom six with your size more so than that. Like I think that his play has caused and helped the production of those other two guys. But I mean that's fair enough. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. Putting him straight on the first line is not something that I even really considered, and that's kind of
I'm
a
ballsy.
fascinating angle to me because I genuinely that didn't even cross my mind to be like, oh yeah, game one, throw him back out there on the first line. That never even crossed my mind, but I'm not against it either. I mean, maybe you kind of do like a happy medium of those two, and you give them like 11 or 12, and you put them on like the third. I don't know.
That's things I don't know, because neither of us could know, right? We're not Derek Lalonde. Because you look at those second and third lines, Kopp, Rasmussen, and Perron. Like I'm not scratching your
Yeah, you're
center.
not scratching any of those.
And your Joe Veleno, Jonathan Berggren, Robbie Fabry. Do any
Probably
of
not.
those
Maybe
guys?
Veleno, maybe, but
But
like
he's
not
your
the other
center.
two.
Who are you gonna play? Like Fabry can play center, but he's not like a great center to be honest.
Well, no, but if you go, Larkin, Kopp, Rasmussen, I don't know, put Suter back at 4C. Like
Yeah,
you have a little bit of flexibility there, but I get
true.
your point.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to go with what's easiest. And despite his 2 goals recently, Kubalik's been kind of invisible. I feel like Oscar Sundqvist, he brings a certain aspect of his game that Jakub Vrana doesn't.
I
But
just feel
Jakub
like
Vrana, I
with
think,
Kubalik, you're like you're bringing back like you're bringing back one shot, like shoot first mentality type of player and getting rid of another. Like I personally would like both of them to
Well,
be on like
see,
dressed like
I would
regularly.
argue that that makes more sense though, because if you're replacing the same player type with a guy that play type that's better, because Kubalik's a shoot first guy, but that's really all he is. And that's
Yeah,
not to say
sure.
he's not good. Like he's excellent in his power play role, but is he a top line guy? No, because Jakub Vrana can do more than Dominic Kubalik can.
I
Jakub Vrana
understand
is
that. I'm not
great.
saying I'm not saying anything about who's better or who's worse. I'm just saying I would like again, like we've said it a million times, like this team needs semi consistent goal scoring, and even if that means Kubalik moving down and Varana's the one that gets the top six or whatever spot in the lineup, then I would really like. I would like the balance of all four lines if there were two different players that were somewhat similar in that regard. Then just I don't think we have enough offense to spare to just like not have people that shoot the puck in the lineup. Like
That's
I
fair.
I want more of them, not the same amount or less of them. We have
Okay.
the ability to have more of them now, and I would like to utilize that.
That's fair. We gotta get to a break. When we come back, we'll move into the conversation you jumped the gun on. But first, let's talk to the people today about FanDuel. It's the midway point of the NBA season, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores to threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with this same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet on up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockdown. That's fanduel.com/lockdown to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Segment 2, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Let's talk now about the possibility of Raymond returning Thursday, Scotty. Lalonde said that they're aiming for that game against the Rangers at LCA to be Raymond's return game. And if that is true and he comes off IR, then a roster move needs to be made. And my question is simple. Who do you send down when Lucas Raymond returns?
Yeah, that's the convo I jumped the gun on earlier. That is I think a big question that is kind of looming as well. I think, I guess, to what I was saying earlier, I think that there is a lot of different possibilities with it because you can go defense. What, like I said, what do we have? Eight. We have 8 D men right now. You
8
can go
D-men, yeah.
defense, or you can do a forward for a forward, and I think that both are very feasible and kind of possible.
Yeah, this is tough because I'm looking at the roster and I could totally see how do I put this? I'd be more comfortable sending a defender down and rolling 7D and rolling 14 forwards than sending a forward down, because when I'm looking at the roster construction, I value the forwards we have more than I value some of the defenders we have. And that's like not a slight on those defenders, but it's just objectively, we carry 8 defensemen right now, and that's how we have been doing it for quite a while. The Red Wings have been doing it for quite a while. And the forward core, I mean, you look at your options on who to send down. Like, who is it? Like, who do you have on your forward core that you're okay with sending down and you're risk losing and okay with that? Because the guys that you can send down are, without risk losing on waivers, is Joe Veleno, Jonathan Berggren, Lucas Raymond, who you're not going to do unless he wants a conditioning stint, which I doubt he's going to need. He's been out for like a week.
Then you're
And
also just kicking the can down the road with
yeah,
that anyway.
and Moritz Sider. And like none of those 4 players deserves to be sent down, in my opinion. All 4 of those players has earned their roster spot, and this team's competing for a roster or a playoff spot right now. So you don't make your team worse because you were afraid of losing somebody off of waivers. Like that doesn't make any sense.
For
So
sure.
I feel like it's to just narrow the field. It's got to be somebody who has to go through waivers, I feel.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely don't think any of those four are likely candidates. Man,
Like,
like I guess maybe like Hail Mary, like a super long shot in the dark would be Valeno, but I don't think that that's gonna happen. Um, so yeah, I guess that points to the defense because earlier in the season I would have said Suter, but he's actually been like pretty productive in the last few weeks. So I think that kind of adjusts expectations for that as well. And if it's not Suter, then it's kind of has to be a defenseman. I don't think there's really anyone else outside of again the waiver exempt forwards and Pew Suter. I don't even think really anyone else is worth even bringing up.
it's yeah. I mean, and let's the elephant in the room here is, do you risk losing Verana again by putting him on waivers,
Right.
especially now that he has come back from his player assistance program and he did heat up in the AHL and is producing now? If you put him on waivers, especially this close to the deadline when teams are looking to acquire difference makers, and Verana, when healthy, can be a difference maker, I don't know if he passes through waivers again. Now, I didn't think he would pass through waivers last time, and I was wrong. I've been wrong before. But I feel like putting Verana back on waivers again is a risk I'm not willing to take, to be honest. So I agree with you. I feel like it's got to be defense because there's not another forward on this lineup that I'm willing to risk losing to waivers. And I'm like, maybe an Oscar Sundquist, but I don't think he's deserved that send down. The only reason I say Sundquist is he's an expiring deal. So if you do lose him, you lose him for maybe a few months. But I don't know what the organizational's viewpoint on Sundquist is. Maybe they want to extend him. But I'm just saying that simply because he's an expiring deal, so it hurts less to lose him over a guy who has multiple years remaining.
Yeah. I mean, again, like if you're not going to go with the waiver exemption people, then yeah, the next players in line for that conversation are the pending UFAs, and again, several of them you either want to extend or even if the do are we going to extend them? Are we not? Is kind of in the air. It's again, like you said earlier, you're starting to change your mindset and having a competitive second half and even a playoff push. You can't be getting rid of people that are productive, even if they are UFAs, and make your team worse. So I think I think Sunquist brings an intangible asset in size to the bottom six. Um, but it really is. This is a really tough conversation. And again, like this is just focusing on the forwards. They could absolutely just turn around and let go of like Osterley and then just like
Yeah.
call it good and have 7 D men and run with the exact same forward core they have.
And I think that might be the play because I brought up Sunquist just because he's an expiring deal, but I don't necessarily think he deserves to be waived. You look at the defenseman, and maybe that's the only route to go, and you carry 14 forwards and 70. Now that would make roster construction even harder because now you have to scratch 2 forwards every single game.
Right.
But you look at your defenders, and I think that you have 2 options in Jordan Osterley and Robert Haig that are staring you in the face, both expiring deals, both depth defensemen, 7th D man at best. Like, I don't feel like you need 2 7th D man on a roster. I mean, I think you only need 1. And if you want to go logic based, possession numbers based, Robert Haig is the worst player on the team at expected goals for percentage and Corsi for percentage. So if you want to go like logical, I feel like Robert Haig might be the most logical player. Now that's again, I mean, that's a big assumption that they're just going to keep Jakub Vrana. That's a huge assumption. I don't know that, but
Yeah,
if
for
I
sure.
I want to keep Jakub Vrana, and so if I want to keep Jakub Vrana on this roster, then somebody's got to go. I feel like Osterley or Haig's going to be the guy. I know Lindstrom's having a bad year, but he's 24 years old under team control. So you lose him, you lose an asset for years to come rather than losing a guy who's about to expire. So it's like you said, it's asset management.
For sure, and I yeah, the Hague conversation is definitely one as well. But uh, The biggest point is just that this whole conversation is under the assumption that Verana is kept on board after Raymond comes back, and that's a decently sized assumption as it stands right now.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be a really, really hard decision to make when this decision comes. Assuming Raymond, well, even at some point, if Raymond doesn't return on Thursday, it is a decision that need to be made when he does return. And I'm glad I'm not the one making it because it's a tough one because this team is competing right now.
Yeah.
And, you're afraid of messing any of that up by waving the wrong guy. But yeah, we'll take another quick break. And when we return, we'll preview the game against Washington where Jakub Vrana looks to make his return to the Red Wings lineup. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about AG1. Our next partner is a product you got to use every day. Start taking AG1 because with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your recovery, energy, focus, and aging, all those things. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will absorb. AG1 is small, micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It cost him $100 a day. This costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, let's preview this game against the Washington Capitals. And this is a huge game. And you know what's funny? I mentioned this to you before we started recording, and we even talked about it on yesterday's episode. I was looking at the slate of games today on Monday, the 20th. And that's not something I've done in a long time, where I've paid attention to what other teams were doing and playing. I was like, oh, the Panthers are in play right now, and we need them to lose to the Ducks, which is a tall ask. And the Bruins are playing the Senators, and we need the Bruins to do
Tied
their
at the time
job.
of this recording. So
Yeah, so it's like the realization that I'm scoreboard watching for the Red Wings was a great feeling because it's middle of February, late February, you could even argue. And this team is still in the thick of it playoff wise after that 5-game heater. And I love that. But it's also, and I said this yesterday too, it's terrifying because now they go to Washington at the end of a 5-game road trip. And it is a must win because this is the team they are chasing in the playoffs. And now to note, the Capitals, Scotty, are on a 4-game losing streak, and they do not have Alex Ovechkin, as it is still unsure when he will return to the lineup after his father unfortunately passed away. Scotty, how do we preview this game, man? I don't know, man. I'm scared. I'm hoping they do their job.
I think if you're talking about importance to the remainder of this season, I don't want to be overly dramatic. I really don't. But there's a legitimate argument that up to this point, this is like the most important game of the season so far.
Yeah. I
Like
don't
just in
think that's
terms
overly
of
dramatic.
like if they win this game and maybe a couple other teams lose and whatnot, and you're heading into Thursday and you're a point or two out of the wild card, and then you're right there in a position to strike, and then like the deadline is looming, and that could continue to change the perception of what the Wings are going to do at the deadline. Like there's an argument that this game and Thursday against the Rangers, like these next two games are two of maybe important isn't the right word, but impactful and detrimental, whether that's good or bad. Like the ripple effect from the result of these two games could be could be massive for sure.
I mean, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say this is the most important game of the season to this point, because this is a team that you were chasing in the playoffs. Right now, they're third in the wild card race, so they're outside looking in. But they have 3 games in hand on you, or you have 3 games in hand on them, rather. But they're only 2 points ahead. So when you play them tomorrow, you have a chance of tying them in points while maintaining the 3 games in hand you have on them. So you have the opportunity to leapfrog all the way to third in the wild card race in tomorrow's game. You will go from 6th to 3rd if you win that game in regulation. That's not an overstatement to say it's the biggest game of the season so far for the Detroit Red Wings. Now, that is also assuming that Florida loses today. If Ottawa wins, they'll be at 60, so that doesn't really impact you that much. And you got to hope the Islanders lose today as well at the time of this recording on Monday. So by the time people listen to this, they'll know the results of those, but we don't as of recording this. But without Alex Ovechkin, this becomes that much more of a must-win for the Detroit Red Wings. They cannot come out flat. And honestly, for once in my life, I have faith that they won't. Because this team, this locker room understands the implications of this game. This is a flat Washington Capitals team. And this is a Red Wings team that, despite a long roadie, is playing their best hockey in quite some time, despite that loss to Seattle. And they understand that this has playoff implications. So I think that they will come out flying tomorrow. Now, whether or not they maintain that up through 60 minutes is still up in the air.
You know what? I'd love to see the boys buzzing to start off the game. But this is also, even over the course of the season, this is a team that is very similar to you just in like season ranking in like certain statistics pretty much across the board. Like you're pretty much the exact same in goals scored a game. You're in the same ballpark in goals against. That makes you somewhat similar in differential. You're pretty similar. The Wings have a slight advantage in the power play, and then the Caps have a slight advantage in the penalty kill. Like you're around the same, like middle of the pack in save percentage. You're both kind of just under middle of the pack in face off. Like really across the board, like these are 2 teams that match up very evenly. If you look at the not only the record and the points, obviously, but just the game to game and per game statistics are all pretty equal. I mean, and this is, and again, they don't have their best player, so that obviously has an impact. But this is more than doable.
I want to point out too, you everything you listed right there was their season average. So that is their average with Alexander Ovechkin, basically,
Correct, yeah.
Who is their leading point scorer, 54 points in 54 games, has over 30 goals. So without Ovechkin, they're on a 4L, and their statistics are way worse. So, like, even with Ovechkin, the Red Wings were neck and neck in competitiveness this season, across the season. Like, this is a beatable team, and I know you're at the end of a 5-game roadie, but they're on a 4L without their star player. You got to go and win this game. Hus will be back in that, I assume. Shake off the shaky game he had against Seattle, I'm sure. I mean, you got to do it, man. You got to do it. This is a must win.
It is. I agree.
Odds in this game via FanDuel Sportsbook. The Washington Capitals are the home favorite. You're going to see that almost any time unless you're like the Toronto Maple Leafs going to play the Anaheim Ducks in Anaheim. It's a minus 152 odds for Washington, plus 126 for the Red Wings. Honestly, I really like the Red Wings odds on that one. I would take the Red Wings in that game on money line.
I do too. I think that's the move.
Goal spread, puck spread, whatever you want to call it. Puck line. Red Wings minus 194 to keep it within a goal and a half, where the Capitals are plus 156 to win by more than a goal and a half. Again, I think that's Red Wings. It's going to be a tight one.
Yeah. I mean that I would not tell you to not go with the Wings, but at minus 200 value wise, that's probably not even worth betting on.
And then, so both of these are minus odds. Neither's a favorite. Over under of 6, not 6.5. So it could be a wash in this game.
I'm just gonna keep taking my over and going home.
It's got to feel like an over to me, and that's a minus 114, and that's as of Monday the 20th. So these odds could change by the time you're listening to this, but that's the odds as of right now. I mean, I think I'd take Red Wings plus goal and a half, Red Wings money line, or over 6. If you guys take any one of those, just take one. Don't take multiple. Usually not a smart idea to take multiple.
Let's run it.
So that's our picks. We're wrong most of the time. No, not most of the time. It's about 50-50, actually.
Just you. Yeah, I'm always right.
Oh, okay. Next season, I'm going to start keeping track of our bets, and we'll see how that works.
Please do. Please do.
So, Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball.
We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow, recapping the game against the Capitals. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.